Hi guys. How are you doing? Happy Sunday. How is everyone doing today? Hey Angela, my cousin in London. Thank you for joining. How are you doing? Okay, I'm on Instagram as well, so maybe I should put my phone there. So I'm not looking across. I'm just trying to get a nice view of both cameras. Hey, Angela, I need to come back to London. I love London. How are you doing? How is my auntie doing? Just give me a couple of minutes. I'm trying to put in my topic for today into both screens. So don't move, stay right there. Hi, Trisha. Thank you for joining me, girl. I'm just waiting a couple of seconds or minutes, another minute for some of my friends to jump on. Hi, Rika. Ooh, my family is pouring in today. Hi, Rika from Antigua. How is the weather there? How is the weather in Antigua? I need to visit. I need to visit. Okay, maybe it's best I keep it here so I'm looking on both screens. Can you see my screen okay? So I have Angela on, I have Trisha on, I have Erica, Rika One Love on, all the way from Antigua. So London is in the house, Canada is in the house, and Antigua is in the house. Thank you guys for jumping on. And today is my broadcast number 3. Last week I did a live. It was only on Instagram. I didn't save it. I still haven't figured out how to save my live on Instagram. Maybe Rika can tell me if it's not in Instagram TV. I'm not sure how to save it. But I'll figure it out. Don't worry. In the next couple of weeks, I guarantee you I'll be a pro at this. Anyway, this is my new shirt. Do you like it? Can you see, Trisha? Let me stand up. Can you see it? That's my logo. Got my shirt done and I'm loving it. So today we'll be talking about faith and fertility again. And I did promise in my second live that I would have a live guest. My live guest is sick. But I have a virtual guest for you today. And guess who it is? I'll be talking about becoming my virtual mentor, Michelle Obama. And before you ask why her, she's coming to Toronto on May 4th, and Trisha and I have already purchased our ticket to go. May is my birthday. I'm turning 45 in May, and I thought it was a really, really good way, exciting way, good way to celebrate my 45th by going to see Michelle live in Toronto on May 4th. So today we're talking about becoming, because I was very surprised when Michelle announced that she too had gone through fertility treatment to conceive both of her daughters, Sasha and Malia. And so I had planned to buy her book anyway she did the pre-release last year, early last year, but I think that piqued my interest a little bit more when she did her interview. Sorry, my music is still on. Let me turn that down. Sorry, guys. Can you hear me okay? Hi, Bob White. Jamaica is in the house. I hear my daughter coming down the stairs, even though I asked Roger to keep her upstairs. You see the door open? So that's Faith. Hi, Faith. We're talking about you today, but you don't get to be on my live. You can come and say hi and come and say hello. You're not coming? Okay, bye. Come and say hello. Look. Auntie Trisha is on, Auntie Erica is on, Uncle Ben is on, and I have cousin Sonia on from London. Say hello, and then you have to go. Mommy's live. Mommy. Okay, say hello. Say hi, everyone.
Please turn it off.
Say hello, everyone. Say hello, everyone.
Oh no!
Say hello, everyone. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, yes, that's great. It's her time. I'm taking up a little bit of her time. Right? So as I was saying, so yeah, I had planned to purchase her book, but then when I learned that she too had gone through infertility to confirm to have conceived both of her daughters, Sasha and Maria, that piqued my interest and made me want to buy the book even more. So I'm sorry if I'm going to be a spoiler for some of you who have not read the book yet. I'm just going to talk about infertility anyway, her book. So that should pique your interest to go and buy it. If you know someone who's experiencing infertility, a friend, a sister, a wife, I don't know. You can recommend them to go and buy the book. It's very, very good. She really told all in the book. Now, if anyone here has read the book, don't be afraid to indicate. I think I know Trisha has a book. I don't know if she's completed it yet, but you should go and get it. So, as I said before, yeah, she talked about her journey with trying to conceive and how difficult it was for her and Barack. And I'm going to read a little excerpt from the book where she said, it turns out that even two committed go-getters with a deep love and in a robust work ethic can't even will themselves into being pregnant. And fertility is not something you conquer. Rather, maddeningly, there's no straight line between effort and reward. For me and Barack, this was as surprising as it was disappointing. When I read her chapter in Becoming Us on infertility, pretty much everything she said, I could have written. Seriously. It is one thing when you see everyone else around you getting pregnant. And like I said, when you're married and everybody's asking, okay, when is the baby coming? Not knowing that you're struggling. It's a very lonely, disappointing, and it's a tough place to be in. And when she talked about it was surprising as well as disappointing for her, it was disappointing for us. Because in my young days, I spent all the time trying to, okay, Trish, you need to finish it before May 4th. You need to finish your book before May 4th. It's disappointing because when you're younger, you're out of school, you're working, managing your career, and you feel like you spend most of your younger days trying to not get pregnant, right? Take all the birth control and everything not to get pregnant. And so years now you're married and you feel like, yeah, this is it. This is what the Bible says about procreation. Like, it's good to have procreation in wedlock. And so when we got married and started trying, it was disappointing that, yeah, years I spent trying to get not to get pregnant. Now I'm trying to get pregnant and it's not happening. So it's very disappointing. And again, I spoke about it in the first live that it's very hard to talk about with friends and family, even when they're asking. It's not something that I felt comfortable discussing with others. And she mentioned it in her book as well, that that it's the worst thing we as women can do to each other, not talk about our stories, what we're going through. And like my mentor always says to me, Sophia, your story is about you, but it's not for you. And as Michelle said, it is the worst thing we do to each other as women, not to share our story so we can help somebody else who's suffering. Keeping it to ourselves it's not helping the mass. It's not even helping us because we're suffering in silence. There's so much pain, shame, guilt that we just need to get rid of because it's not good for our emotional health. And so reading her book was therapy, even though I'm writing my own book, but reading it and hear it from somebody who I admire, a public figure that many other people admire, it validated my story that, yeah, Sophia, you're doing the right thing of not keeping it to yourself, but sharing it with everybody else to help them heal. And so it's my whole purpose of doing this live because I want to help you or your friend, your sister, your friend, your somebody who you know in your circle who may be suffering. And it's not just with infertility or fertility issues. There's so many other issues that just having a conversation of your struggle and your pain point can help with, right? She also talked about during her many years of trying to get pregnant that she did get pregnant, and she was excited because of course when you're struggling for a couple of years and it's not happening, but when it finally happened, you're like, okay, finally I can stop worrying about getting pregnant. Now I'm pregnant. But weeks later, she found out she had a miscarriage. So she said after many years of taking careful precautions to avoid pregnancy, it was now singularly dedicated to the opposite endeavor. I treated it as a mission, which is how we treated our journey as well, trying to get pregnant. I literally documented everything. I was on the calendar every day, looking, counting my 28 days down to over. Hi, Andrea, how are you? Love Beach and booked. And is that Rennie French? And Kadeen. Hi, Kadeen, how are you? Thanks for joining. I'm both on Instagram and Facebook, so I'm looking across both screens. Hi, Roz, how are you, girl? Thanks for joining me. I'm talking about faith and my journey with infertility, and also giving a brief review of Michelle Obama's, not the whole book, but a chapter in her whole story, because her whole story is very intriguing. She shares, she literally tell it all in this, politics, everything. But as I was saying, the chapter on infertility is what resonated with me. And so I'm talking about that as well. Words of wisdom. Thank you, Andrea. So she was talking about her experience with miscarriage, where she said, we had one pregnancy test, came back positive, which caused us both to forget every worry and swoon with joy. But a couple of weeks later, I had a miscarriage, which left me physically uncomfortable and cratered any optimism we felt. Now, I have shared this before, that during our journey, we also had 3 miscarriages. It could be more, we stopped counting. And I think after the second miscarriage and all celebrating and the excitement, when number 3 came, I was like, okay, it's just going to end in a miscarriage anyway, so let's not celebrate. And that too is very difficult to handle when you're waiting for something so long, so much, it's your dream, and then it happens. and then it's taken away from you, right? That was very hard to deal with as well, because I didn't talk about miscarriage with anyone. No one in my friends circle talk about their experience with miscarriage, and I didn't know how popular that was. But in her book, she also says, according to national estimates, roughly 15 to 20% of all pregnancies in North America end in miscarriage, which is defined as a loss of a fetus before the 20th week. The majority of miscarriages occur within the first 7 weeks of pregnancy. And we don't talk about it. We don't talk about miscarriages, and we should talk about it more to help other people and also to help our own selves heal. And we often blame ourselves, like I blamed myself when it happened the first time around, the second time around. By the third time around, I was numb anyway. But I blame myself because, one, I didn't know the statistic that it happens frequently, and it's nothing that I did or you did why it happened. It's just our body's response to I don't know, whatever the universe, whatever is happening in your body and your universe. I don't have the medical term for it, but it's nothing that you did, it's nothing that I did. But I think once we educate ourselves and know that 20%, 15 to 20% of pregnancies will end in miscarriage before it gets to that 20 weeks mark, like the first 7 weeks of pregnancy. And that's why a lot of people, when they're pregnant too, they don't talk about their pregnancies before they're over that 3-month mark where your medical profession tells you that you're in the safe zone or the safer zone, or it's less likely, your pregnancy is less likely to end in miscarriage. But all this is education for me and for somebody else. Because when I was going through my infertility and miscarriage story, I became a what do you call it? A researcher, like self-help. I was looking for every help I could find. Google was my best friend. Yes, Google. I didn't talk to people except for my fertility specialist that I was going to. My doctor, my fertility specialist. I didn't talk to people because I was so ashamed, lonely. I didn't know that a lot of other women were going through infertility and miscarriages and pregnancy loss. So Google was my best friend. So I became like a what do you call it? I'm looking for the term. An expert researcher on infertility and miscarriages. And hi, Kenai, how are you? That's my brand lady. She does all my graphic designer. She did my logo. Yeah, I love it. Everybody loves it, girl. You know, look up Kenai. She's on Instagram, Facebook. Really, really good. So, yeah. And a lot of the information I'm sharing right now is because I did a lot of research when I was pregnant, when I experienced miscarriage, when I learned about the term infertility. I'm like, what's that? Never heard of it before. Never knew of anybody who went through fertility treatment. Yeah, one friend in Jamaica briefly mentioned it, but because I wasn't trying, I was still young, I had no interest. I wasn't like there for her because I didn't even understand what it was. Like, she just said it and I'm like, okay. But now as somebody mentioned, as the word miscarriage or pregnancy or infertility comes up, I'm like, my ears peaked. I want to hear more. I want to hear their story. I want to see their story match my story. I want to see how I can help them. And that's how my ears literally got peaked when I heard about Michelle's journey. I think it was an interview she did with Robert on CNN or one of those stations. And so in her book, she also talked about, if I were to start a file on things nobody tells you about until you're right in the thick of them, I might begin with miscarriage. It's lonely, it's painful, it's demoralizing, almost on a cellular level. When you have one, you will likely mistake it for a personal failure. Yes, you do. You think it's something you did. I think it was something that I did to cause the miscarriage, which it is not. Or a tragedy, which regardless of how utterly devastating it feels in the moment, it also is not. What nobody tells you is that miscarriage happens all the time. Well, I'm telling you now, Michelle is telling you now that it happens all the time to more women than you'd ever guess. Given the relative silence around it, I learned this only after I mentioned that I'd miscarried to a couple of friends who responded by heaping me with love and support, and also their own miscarriage stories. It didn't take away the pain though, but in unburying their own struggles. And that's why I'm here sharing my story with you. So I can help you understand that it's not only happening to you, it has happened to me, and it will happen to somebody you know. It could be a very close friend, a sister, and our purpose is really to help them, to support them, to give a listening ear, to just to encourage them and to be equipped, to be educated on the subject. So if and when that friend or sister or co-worker, because this conversation comes up everywhere, anywhere, it's for you to be educated on the topic so you can give a listening ear, so you can help. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just to listen and say, I'm here for you. Like Trisha was there for me. She's probably the only person that knew that I had 3 miscarriages. And it's because she was so close to me and I felt comfortable sharing it with her. And because she knew, she always supported me, kind of like in knowing that I'd love to have a baby. And so every time I got pregnant, I was so excited that I would share it with that one person outside of my hubby. So she was probably the only other person. So we do need that circle of friends who we trust, who we think deserve to hear our story. It helps. It helps the mind. It helps the heart. It just helps your whole mental and emotional well-being. It's good for you. It's not good to literally hold everything in. And so if you haven't bought Michelle's book yet, there are lots of more nuggets in there. It's not just infertility. She talks about politics and everything else. If you're in politics, she talks about meeting Obama for the first time. It's very exciting. And even with me writing my own book on infertility, I did mention that I'm writing my story. I'm sharing my story here on live. I'm sharing it through a book as well, to be published later this year. What was I saying? I lost my chain of thought. Can you remind me who was listening? Yeah, get her book. Now is the time to get it. And you know what? This is my 3rd live, and since I've started sharing my story, I've had people reach out to me through direct messages. I mean, if you have questions for me, put it in the comment here. A lot of people who may have questions on infertility itself, or maybe experience it, don't want to share it here publicly, but they have reached out to me by direct messages. I've been in circles where people know that I talk about infertility a lot. Workplace, wherever I am, I'm very open. I'm sharing my story to help at least one more person. So there are people who know that I talk about infertility and loss a lot. They call me the infertility advocate. They've reached out to me through private message. They've recommended other people to, have the conversation with me. And I'm always willing and ready to give a lending ear. Today we're talking about listening in church. The message was about keeping it real, and it was about how we should actively listen more than we talk. And I'm practicing that. I was never ever a talker, but the more that I'm sharing my story now, I find that you can't shut me up. I'm just talking, because it's therapy for me too. But yeah, they were talking about just give a listening ear to that person. Listen more than we talk, and listen to really help support that person, but not to have the perfect answer. Because when somebody's going through infertility, we don't always know what to say or have the perfect answer for them, but just to be there to support them. What was the most challenging part of your journey? So that message is from Keen Eye. I would say just losing kind of that, what do you call it, touch with your partner. Like Roger, my focus was all around having that baby so much that I felt like I lost that intimacy because I was always on the calendar watching for 28 days to show up when I'm ovulating so we can get busy, you know what I'm saying? So it can really make you lose yourself while going through the journey. Lose yourself in just trying to accomplish this mission, and you lose touch of that connection and intimacy with your partner. I would say that was the most challenging. And yeah, there's so many other challenges that I could say, just having to, especially when we're seeing the fertility specialist as well, having to get up every morning, like at 6 o'clock, get to the fertility specialist office by 6:30 or 7 a.m. to get tested, and which was like blood test. I had to do like a blood test every other day just to see how my hormones were doing and when was a good time to do this or to do that. But yeah, it was very challenging, but I go back to having that intimacy in my relationship, and we were newlyweds, so you definitely needed to keep that honeymoon stage going for a while, but I was just interested in having my baby like right now. I hope that answered your question. Did it? Kenai, how did you overcome this obstacle? Well, to be honest, I really didn't overcome the obstacle until we decided that this is after we had run the gamut of seeing 2 infertility specialists, having them provide all the ABCD steps that we should take, which is literally tracking your ovulation, having sex. If that doesn't work, then you need to go on Clomid. Trying that doesn't work, then they're suggesting IVF, and we were like, how much is IVF? And it was way too expensive for us to even consider it. It was like 15,000 to 20,000 at the time, and that didn't include all the medication that we had to take, right? So we're looking at a lot of money. It was at that point that we're like, no, we're not going any further. We're tired of this. We have been going through this for 5 years. I'm tired. I feel like I have done everything that I should have done, and now I'm just going to take a break from trying and rest. And I think after I made that decision, that's when things started to become clearer. Like, okay, you are emotionally and mentally tired. You just need to rest, calm down, let God do his work in your body. And then it was at that point that things started to fall in place. I'm like, I need to practice some self-love. I need to love myself. Work on my emotions, doing massage, take my stress level down, pay attention to Roger Moore, our relationship. So it's kind of like doing all those self-care, 1, 2, 3, massages, resting, relaxing, date nights, everything. Then I'm like, okay, 5 years of all that and no result. But then I'm like, it came back to us, to me, to him, focusing on him and I, then everything just worked. Hi, Nicole, how are you? That's my mentor, my coach. I'm sure she's on here checking up on me to make sure I'm doing my live. Yeah, she keeps me on the straight line, straight from Jamaica. Good to see you, girl. Now, Kenai, did that answer your question? Trisha, do you have any question for me? Roz, do you have any question for me? Bob White? gonna post this now. Thank you, girl. Invite our goal accelerators. Oh, guys, Nicole runs this club called Goal Accelerators, and it's the best. It's amazing. She keeps us in line. She makes sure we're on our goal and achieve them. We not achieve them. We knock them out the park. So, any other questions for me on infertility, miscarriages? Any feedback on Michelle's book? Get it. Lots of info on infertility. Now it's 5:28. If you don't have any more questions for me, I'm going to be off. I'm jumping off here, but please feel free to drop your comments below this live. If you're watching it later this week, post your comments with repost. You can DM me if you have any questions on infertility and miscarriages. My website is coming out later this week. Keen Eye Productions, I'm putting it out there. All the information on my journey with infertility will be there. It will give you all the information you need about coaching and mentoring. I just bought the book. Awesome. Please read it. Lots of good information in there, not just on infertility, but it will open your eyes to just so many other aspects of Michelle Obama's life. And she really, like I said before, I cannot even stress it, how she just tells all. And it's really helping me to talk more about infertility one, and it's helping me as an author as well, because it kind of like, I think a lot of my story, I was holding back on it, but she has given me ideas how to just put it out there, just to release, just to tell all, so you can help yourself and help others. So yeah, please DM me, please send me a message, please post your comments and hashtag repost when you're commenting later this week, and I'll come back to this live and answer all of your questions. But thank you so much for jumping on here with me. Today, I'll be on next week, Sunday again, and every Sunday in the month of April. And it could be April and beyond, but I'm here every Sunday. So please join me. And I thank you so much for jumping on today. Next week, I'll definitely have my guest, my live guest. Today, I had my virtual guest, but I'll have my live guest on next week, because I want you to hear not just from me, but from other persons who have experienced, you know, infertility or pregnancy loss or miscarriages. And by the way, April 22nd to 27th is Infertility Week. And so that week I may go live every day. You're gonna see me around a lot more. I may go live every day just to share. Thank you. See you guys next week, Sunday. Join me again. Thank you so much. Enjoy your Sunday and your week. Mwah.